This is David Finzer for Truth and Lies Radio. To comment during the program, you can send me a Skype text message at Truth and Lies Radio, all one word, or you can email me at david@truthandliesradio.com. As soon as our new studio is finished, you will also be able to call toll-free from the U.S. and Canada, or Skype from around the world and join the conversation. Now, I don't know about you, but aren't you sick of hearing about Syria? Those people have been killing each other for thousands of years. And I don't know why America and Great Britain and Western Europe and the UN are whining and complaining about what's going on in Syria. Syria is an artificial country that was created by the Sykes-Picot Treaty after the First World War, when the British and the French foreign ministers got together and drew a bunch of lines on maps and created all of these fake Middle Eastern countries where people don't really believe they're Syrians, most of them. I mean, some of them do, but the point is it's a nothing country that has always had a dictator, probably always will have a dictator, and if you get rid of him, he'll only be replaced by a Ba'athist, fascist, secular dictator with some kind of Islamist dictator. So I, for one, just wish to be shed of it and remember what the second President of the United States, John Adams, said, that America is the friend of liberty throughout the world, but the guardian only of our own. And as far as I'm concerned, what goes on there, we should just keep, as long as we keep it inside their borders, let them fight it out and solve it. It's not our business, nor is it our concern. There is no strategic value to us to Syria. Now, I used the term an anti-Christian Pearl Harbor. Well, that's actually a term taken from someone else about whom I'm going to report. The House Republicans didn't pull any punches while attacking the Obama administration's contraception mandate Wednesday. Representative Tim Hoylskamp, Republican of Kansas, called the policy an example of what he called anti-Catholic bigotry, because the employees of some Catholic institutions will have mandated access to contraception, which the church believes is a form of abortion. Representative Mike Kelly, Republican of Pennsylvania, also a freshman congressman, compared the policy to the events of Pearl Harbor in September 11, 2001. I want you to remember August 1st, 2012, he said, the attack on our religious freedom. This is a date that will live in infamy along with those other dates. Of course, invoking Franklin Roosevelt's famous address to Congress when he asked for a declaration of war against the Empire of Japan on December 8th, 1941. Democrats and feminazi groups, meanwhile, continue to praise the new benefit requirement, which will make a range of preventive services, including contraception, available without a copay or deductible. Now, that's an important point. They're pushing this. This is not something that's merely offered along with another range of services. You know, if you wouldn't have appendicitis, you're going to have a copay or deductible. But these feminazi groups, they don't want, because they have an agenda to push, which is no kind of equality at all, they again want special rights for special people or special causes. So an appendix ready to explode costs you money, but things that are forced on your employer, violating his religious principles, they are free. Now that strikes me as really dictatorial. The Health and Human Services Department said 47 million women will have access to so-called preventative services without cost sharing. In other words, the taxpayer will pay for it, not the people wanting the services. And these services, remember, these are voluntary. These are not things that they absolutely need. They are not things that are going to, in most cases, affect their health. It's just people pushing an agenda. Now, every once in a while, I think I ought to highlight a particularly bad guy. And so I'm going to do that starting right now with Obama's newest sleaze merchant, One of President Obama, excuse me, I called him president again. It's just a bad habit I've picked up. I think I'll just go back to cursing more. One of Mr. Obama's newest campaign bundlers, or is that bunglers, is a career Democrat fundraiser with a history of shady business dealings and failed political ambitions. Terry the McAuliffe, who's raised millions of dollars for clients such as former President Bill Clinton, Al Gore, the man who claims he invented the internet and the world's leading eco-Nazi, and the Democratic National Committee, is one of the most well-connected players in American politics. His Rolodex is incredibly impressive. The New York Times boasts that he told them it has more than 18,000 names, which has helped him amass an impressive personal fortune over the course of a career that's littered with questionable business transactions. His latest business venture is Green Tech, an electric car company that recently opened a plant in Horn Lake, Mississippi. McAuliffe tapped his extensive political network to help raise more than $100 million in startup capital. The New York Times described Green Tech as a monument to the power of a politically connected company, unquote. Anthony Rodham, brother of U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, leads the company's primary investment group. Earlier this month, McAuliffe celebrated the opening of the Green Tech plant at a ceremony attended by Bill Clinton and mega lobbyist and former Mississippi Governor Haley Barbour, who's also the former RNC chairman, but obviously, you know, his loyalty is for sale. He's a hired gun now. And a former business partner of McAuliffe's who enticed Green Tech to Mississippi with a package of tax and infrastructure incentives and included a $3 million loan. Gee, what a great deal. This guy, Haley Barbour, Republican national chairman, hooks up with McAuliffe, who I think headed the DNC, throws in tax incentives and infrastructure incentives that the little guy can't get, and includes a $3 million loan. If I were a taxpayer in Mississippi, I would be a little bit concerned whether or not this is going to work out. Well, when we come back, I'll continue talking some more about this guy because he needs watching. This is David Finzer for Truth and Lies Radio. I'll be gone for 5 minutes. Stay tuned. This is David Finzer for Truth and Lies Radio, continuing to talk about Mr. Obama's latest bundler, whatever, fundraiser extraordinaire and some of his business dealings. Terry McAuliffe, name you should remember, he's the one with the 18,000 names in his Rolodex, according to the Gray Lady of the New York Times. And he's opened this plant in Mississippi to create, called Green Tech. And at the opening ceremony, there were a host of wealthy investors from Red China in attendance, where Green Tech is currently building a massive manufacturing facility as part of a joint venture with a Chinese investment firm. Now, wait a minute. This is a guy who's raising money for Mr. Obama, who is constantly berating companies for offshoring their operations, and he's brought him on board as a big fundraiser. And this guy's got a company that's going offshore and setting up something in Red China. Can you spell hypocrite? I doubt Obama can, but can you? Obviously, this is massive hypocrisy that, you know, I guess one comes to expect from Obama. You know, it's not a tax, it's not a penalty. I'll revoke the Patriot Act. Then he doesn't. You know, he lies so much that I don't think he would know the truth, like I said, if he jumped up and bit him in the butt. But anyway, nevertheless, this is going forward. McAuliffe's political connections may well have played a role in securing a deal with Red China. In fact, in February of this year, Green Tech automotive executives attended a U.S. State Department luncheon honoring Chinese Vice President Xi Jinping, during which Vice President Joe Biden personally introduced McAuliffe to Xi. Now, what I want to know is, was there somebody standing next to Joe Biden whispering in his ear, reminding him who he was talking to? Because Biden is absolutely dumber than mud. That I would love to have seen a video of, because I'm sure someone had to hold his hand and show him which knife and fork to use, too. Anyway, McAuliffe told the Associated Press the company had raised money through the federal government's EB-5 visa program, which allows foreign nationals with big bucks to obtain U.S. residency status in exchange for investing in businesses here. Great. So not only does the Red Chinese have the United States right where it hurts by holding more U.S. Treasury bonds and more U.S. dollars than anybody else in the world, the number one economic foe, if you will, of the United States. It breaks all the copyright and patent laws. But now the administration is helping them bring in people who are going to work on behalf of the Red Chinese government under residency status, giving them all the rights but the right to vote. This is like planting spies all over the United States in exactly the places they want spies planted, which are in American businesses. And this is something that is an incredible hazard to the companies that are accepting them. This is a fifth column, an economic fifth column, whereby American know-how is going to be shipped out to Red China by people that the United States government is going to give residency visas to, and that they're going to steal from the very businesses in which they invest. Because nobody coming from Red China that has the $5 million minimum to get in this program is not a member of the Communist Party and the People's Liberation Army or their version of the KGB. They are government-connected, dedicated communists, dedicated to the interests of Red China, and yet the United States and the president, the vice president, this Democratic fundraiser are all complicit in planting them like a virus inside American businesses. Now, it's unclear how large a stake in the company is owned by foreign investors. It has been reported when asked that it is a privately held company, and as such, Green Tech does not comment on its financial or related strategies, noting that the firm has been built on private capital investment, not government money. No, not government money. What's more important, government contacts, government influence, you know, the wink and a nod that says you aren't going to get hassled by government agencies because you're a friend of the guy sitting at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. In April, Mr. Obama attended a fundraiser at McAuliffe's home in Virginia. Bill Clinton was also in attendance. Gee, that must have been a jolly crowd. I'm glad I wasn't there. McAuliffe is a new addition to Obama's campaign list of campaign bundlers. He's pledged to raise at least $500,000 in donations. And I'm sure he's going to raise a lot more than that, because he once raised $26 million in one night, as part of the Democratic Party's efforts to elect Al Gore, one of the most boring men ever to hold office, in 2000. Gore described McAuliffe as the greatest fundraiser in the history of the universe. And since Gore probably claims to have invented the universe as well, I guess maybe he knows what he's talking about. Before that, McAuliffe served as finance chairman of the Clinton-Gore re-election campaign and helped raise an incredible $43 million over an 8-month period. He went on to lead the party's fundraising efforts as chairman of the Democratic National Committee from 2001 to 2005. And for those of you who don't remember, his tenure as chairman was scandal-filled. The New York Times described him as the former president, Mr. Clinton's professional best friend. Clinton's relationship with McAuliffe has been lucrative. In addition to leading the former president's fundraising efforts, he's raised more than $300 million for Clintonian causes, including $75 million for the Clinton Presidential Library, $8 million for legal bills in the Monica Lewinsky sex and perjury scandal, and $5 million for Hillary's New York Senate campaign. He also put down $1.4 million in 1999 to secure a mortgage on the New York home the Clintons purchased in advance of Hillary's Senate run. Talk about being a carpetbagger, when the couple's finances had been drained by legal fees. Yes, what was it, Whitewater and a few other things. McAuliffe's business pedigree is not so simple, wrote Pravda on the Potomac, the Washington Post, in 2009. He's a deal maker who's made millions from investments, and many of his biggest deals came in partnership with prominent donors and politicians, creating a portrait over the years of a Washington insider who got rich as he rose to power within the Democratic Party. Now, he exemplifies the problem with America today. Money and power and influence in Washington. Government working hand in glove with allegedly private enterprise, but always big private enterprise, big companies, big politics, it always involved in industries where there's a lot of regulation. They're making electric cars, okay? Now, think about the mountain of government regulations that are involved in car making. You remember the movie about the Tucker brothers that invented a car and they were driven out of business? I'm so old, I guess maybe I'm the only one who remembers the movie. But they were driven out of business by government harassment. There used to be a car maker called the Kaiser. My family used to own one. And Henry J. Kaiser got so annoyed, so angry with the United States government interference in his business, he sold everything and moved to Brazil and helped Brazil start its industry. And Brazil is still reaping the benefits of that move. McAuliffe is the absolutely quintessential Washington insider who has no scruples whatsoever. Of course, the fact that he worked with Bill Clinton and Al Gore, who between them couldn't find one scruple if they tried, and with Hillary Clinton, who is equally bad, shows exactly what I'm talking about. This military, industrial, banking, government complex where there's this elite at the top, this establishment elite that runs America, and they're making each other rich while at the same time impoverishing the taxpayers and everyone who's not part of their group. I mean, isn't it interesting to you that the first home that Bill Clinton ever owned was this one in New York that cost millions of dollars, for which McAuliffe put down $1.4 million? I don't know, it strikes me as strange. That's part of the problem with Washington. Anyway, now I have to go away for 6 minutes or so. We'll come back to the second hour to Threatening Thursday, when I will be talking with Oliver Neville about European affairs. This is David Finzer for Truth and Lies Radio. I'll be back in a little more than 6 minutes. Stay tuned. Don't go away.